So here are a couple of the things that I have thought about as a result of a little bit of introspection, or what would you call it, self-reflection, I guess. What's wrong with uncertainty? If this is one of the objections that creationists have, are we going to say, no, we are certain? A lot of evolutionists will respond to the accusation of uncertainty by saying, no, we are certain, we're certain. Well, no, we are not certain. Give up on that. And, oh wait, this is my plug for the National Center for Science Education. Don't forget that these people are behind us. They're what's the word? On our backs? No, that's not the right word. Behind our backs. Anyway, these people are very reasonable and very used to listening to every perspective. Eugenie Scott I knew back when she was just out of Yale, and she's very smart, very non-confrontational, and has won incredible victories. Her article, co-authored with Glenn Branch, is coming out in the Scientific American upcoming, thanks to Sam Saltoon, who pointed this out to me, on your newsstands soon. Worth reading, and it covers the Louisiana case that is another one of these head spinners. Like, what do you do now? Okay, back to uncertainty. At the Smithsonian, where I worked for a long time, they dismantled the Evolution Hall. They are putting up, opening next spring, I think, the new Hall of Human Origins, I think it's going to be called. And for the last decade or more, they've held these kinds of meetings with community leaders. I think they gave up on this, but a long time ago they thought they needed to prepare the community or get feedback from the community. And they got all kinds of people together, and the scientists were telling them what was in store, and the people would express their reservations about it. And one woman at one point said this: so what good is science if it keeps changing all the time? Now, is that an important question to ask? It is an important question to ask. And there's a good answer, which is we keep building on, maybe we do make mistakes, we keep building. It's a sort of self-correcting process. Yes, even the methods change. Basic paradigms change. Oh my God, how uncertain can any business be? And in anthropology, we see it really, really well. Now, this is a little bit of, like, what do I know that Charles Darwin thought? But they had discovered a Neanderthal before 1859, so I'm saying, okay, at that point in time, you might have put a phylogenetic chart like this out there. Where are the question marks? None. Isn't that beautiful? Okay, pretty soon, and it's by 1900, now I'm throwing in those Java specimens and some of these southern Mediterranean Oreopithecus specimens and a few things, and a couple more Neanderthals had turned up by then. Now we have some question marks in there. By 1925, I put this in there. This is the Scopes trial. Now by this time, and taxonomy was pretty primitive. It's still, taxonomy is another question, like, oh my God, we're into a new period of taxonomic revisionism. When will that end? But never mind. Here we have some fossils showing up, some things that are given bizarre taxonomic statuses, some things like, I think this Hesperopithecus, I think that may have been bogus. And here's the Eoanthropus dawsoni, you know who that was? That was Piltdown, so discarded, but many question marks in there. And as we get more fossils and throw out the ones that turn out to be no good, you have even more question marks and fuzzy lines and unknowns. And this is around the time, this is just before I was taking my first anthropology classes, but by this time the Alikis had been discovering a few things. How cool is that? And gee, but how do they really fit together? And then we have this little assemblage that's put there to show a sort of diversification and time together. And there are many things and lots of little body parts to look at that lead people to not know exactly where on the family tree one specimen goes. And this one, the point is, and I may be leaving a few things out or putting a few things in that are taxonomically a little out of date. But the point is, it's full of question marks now. Does that mean we have less knowledge or more knowledge, or just lots more questions, or lots more uncertainty and lots more questions that we can approach now with a little bit of background? And that's what I think makes uncertainty so cool. Let us defend uncertainty. Thank you very much. So, another thing, where am I on my list? Oh yes, what's wrong with something being a theory? Finally, people like National Center for Science Education are screaming at the top of their lungs, there's nothing wrong with being a theory. A theory is good. But I can remember 10 years ago people saying, evolution's not a theory, evolution is a fact. Talk about feeding into the very most wrong-headed posture. That was the worst, because it's not a fact either. A fact is defined as something else. And it is a theory, and let's be proud of it, because it's a unification of multiple different avenues of evidence that leads to a very global big picture. But as long as we're talking about theory, let's, oh wait, that comes next, sorry. Another thing they'll say is, what qualifies as a proof? Good question. It is difficult to prove anything. And the measure of beyond a reasonable doubt is a sort of probably what we're stuck with when we're looking at past events. What is religion? Back to my spiel on how we do need a constitutionally appropriate definition of religion that neither excludes things we want in our public schools, such as naturalistic methodologies and worldviews, nor do we want to include a bunch of junk we don't want in our public schools. So use the public school, as everybody often does, as that battleground for deciding whether this or that or the other is or is not religious. Another point that they've made that I think is a very valid one and enriches us is to be philosophers of science for a moment and saying, maybe studying the past, especially the unreplicable past events, which is paleontology and crime scene investigations, to use two good examples, involves a methodologically different sort of approach and different sorts of standards. Yes, it does. Because you can't replicate this, you can't go to the laboratory, nor can you falsify your claims either. So looking at past-oriented sciences as different from present or replicable types of sciences is a very valuable contribution that critics of evolution have made. Thank you for that, you know.